Good morning. It is Tuesday, July 13th, 2021, back here for Bed Talk 339. Today I want to talk about productivity, but in the context of time. Time and productivity, we often, and too often today, I would argue, we see them as the same thing. In other words, in order to prove ourselves productive and to measure people's productive, we look at how much time they spend working because there's so many things that we don't really measure well in business. If we're producing a product like a part on a machine, we're pretty clear we can measure how many parts per hour and compare that to our goals and then past all that. But when it comes to productivity, typically we don't really measure it well. And I think that's part of the problem we're dealing with right now as we're coming through the pandemic and people working at home and now some coming back to work and this debate that's going on about are people more productive at home, less productive at home. Certainly most people believe they're more productive. There's a lot of research that says that they are. Some employers and organizations are saying they're not. I'll be honest, I haven't seen as much research suggesting less productivity. And then people will say something like, well, there's no way they're as productive because they've got these distractions, whether it's their kids or their dogs, or just choosing to, take a little longer lunch or whatever. And therefore, they must not be as productive. And I think we need to rethink productivity, not to reduce it, but better understand it in this new time and to think differently about time. Something I learned years ago is that, and this is very applicable to the workplace, most of us take the work we have to do and we make it fit the time we have. In other words, if we had less time, we could actually do more in less time, but we spread it out naturally. Proof of this that we all know and have experienced is when we're doing something that takes up a lot of time and we're looking forward to getting that time back. We'll say things like, I'm working a night job or I'm going to school in addition to work. We say, I can't wait till this is done, or I'm working on my MBA. When this is done, I'll have all this time. I've never met someone who said it was great because when I was done, I had all this time. No, instead, they just fill it up with the things they're already doing. So they're actually doing less in the same amount of time. And that's what happens in the workplace. And what I would offer is perhaps that's not what's happening at home. That in fact, people at home in some cases are working more hours. Actually, that's one of the challenges right now because they're honoring their productivity requirements. So they may not work the same time during the, say, 8 to 5 period, but during the day, they're actually working more than at work and they are more productive. And organizations and leaders need to be open to that possibility, and in many cases, likelihood, right? The other thing is that it's very possible, and I would argue likely, that they are meeting their objectives productivity wise in less time because they're making different decisions. They're not needing to spread out over the workday. They get more focused when they have the work time because they know they have distractions other times. So there's a very strong likelihood that people are actually more productive. And here's the question I want to leave you with. Assume you've got a team member who, when they were working in the office, working, say, 8 hours a day, were productive as you needed them to be. So they were achieving their productivity goals. Now they're working at home and assume that they are achieving the same productivity goals. They're accomplishing just as much, but they're doing it in less time. So they've gotten better at productivity. Here's the key question. Would you assess them as just as productive as before, less productive because they're working fewer hours, or more productive? See, I would say they're even more productive because they're getting more done in less time. And the old way of thinking is, well, then I need to get them to work more time. We don't pay people for time. That model is flawed and is old, and we need to make a shift. We should be paying people for value because that's how you create cultures of value. Otherwise, all you have is a culture of put in your time, do your job, go home. Think about all these things. It's a new time. It is when we have new times, it's a new opportunity to think differently and lead differently. That's it for today. Keep taking care of yourself, everyone around you, and by all means, stay connected.